Hello everyone! Welcome to my booktube channel. I'm so excited to finally have an official separate channel to just talk about books and stuff. I've been thinking about splitting my channel for quite a while now, and I've been kind of going back and forth on it. Then I was like, you know what? Let me just have fun. Also, before we get farther on into the video, I just want to apologize for the lighting right now because the clouds are coming in and out, and I don't have a professional lighting setup. I'm kind of just at the mercy of natural light, so that's fine. Anyways, like I was saying, I've been thinking about splitting up my channel for quite a while now because every single time that I post about books on my main channel, the book videos just suffer. Like, they get a fraction of the amount of views as the other ones are, and honestly, I should have known because the YouTube algorithm really loves niches. So the fact that I'm just gonna be posting about book stuff on here is probably going to be the thing that ends up helping this channel along, and then letting that other channel just be intentional living and stuff like that. And hopefully it will get my book stuff to reach a wider audience. But essentially, the whole point of this channel is that it's me talking about books while also spending zero to as little money as possible on books. Reading and collecting books, two separate hobbies, everyone always says. I feel like that's thinly veiled shopping addiction speaking, but I'm not trying to come right at people's throats right off the bat. So to give a little backstory, I got back into reading in a major way a couple of years ago. Essentially, I was a huge bookworm as a kid. I read a ton of books all the time. My favorite author was Roald Dahl, and I loved the Magic Tree House books. I really loved dystopian and fantasy growing up. But then, you know, the classic tale of high school and college being just so academically overwhelming that you kind of just need to take a step back from reading, because for me, I could barely focus on my schoolwork, let alone reading for fun. Getting back into reading, my final year of college, I think I read 5 books that year, and then the year after that I think I read 17, and then the year after that I read 38, and this year so far, as of right now filming this video, I have read 50 books. Which, guess what, I'm not saying that the numbers matter, but I am saying when you give yourself the opportunity to read books that you actually like, chances are you'll read more books. And for me, when I was starting back into my reading journey as an adult, I was getting a lot of my books from the thrift store, and I really was like, oh yeah, eco-friendly queen, and I was only spending like $1 to $5 per book. And then as soon as I was like, oh, these books from the thrift store aren't that interesting, like I'm not really reaching for them, I'm just spending a couple dollars on them, but then they're staying on my shelves. And then I started going to thrift books, which was significantly more expensive, although way cheaper than buying straight from a regular book retailer. And then my life changed and turned around the second that I bought my Kindle. Oh my gosh, I cannot tell you how life-changing having an e-reader is. Hooked this bad boy up to Libby, which, if you're not familiar, is essentially just a connect to a local library or local libraries. I have like 5 library cards. And since then, I've read over 50 books, probably like 60 or 70 books just on my Kindle since then, and they've all been books that I really, really like. Well, most of them have been books I really, really like, but in general, it's just more exciting for me to actually take books out on hold that I actually enjoy reading. But anyways, I could rant forever about why buying this Kindle has changed my life, but let me just get into what you can expect to see on this channel, just to like get to know me and my reading tastes, I guess, a little bit. My favorite genres are romance, fantasy, historical fiction, dystopian, literary fiction, mystery thriller, and I also dabble a little bit in sci-fi. I've just started dipping my toe into it, and so far it's okay, but I'm definitely a little nervous because another fun fact about me is that I am afraid of aliens. It's a whole thing, don't even worry about it. It was a young trauma to the movie E.T., and since then my stomach turns every time that aliens come about, okay? So let's just move on from that. Those are the kinds of books you'll see me reading. I definitely like to do kind of like themed reading vlogs. reading wrap-ups, seasonal reading vlogs, like seasonal reading hopefuls. Like, I'm not gonna necessarily do like a TBR every month, because another thing about me is that I'm a chronic mood reader. Before, a couple years ago, I was like, there's no way that I can read more than one book at a time because my brain just gets confused. I think I have like 4 or 5 books open right now because I am just, I don't know. I've been like in and out of a slump since July, but that's like a whole other thing. Anyways, this channel is just going to be a place where I am going to share about my reading experiences, but I really don't want this channel for me to be a stressful thing. I don't want this to ruin the hobby of reading for me. I don't want it to take the joy of reading away from me. And guess what? Sometimes I get into little slumps and I'm not gonna have that many books to talk about, but I'm not gonna hold myself up to the standards of other booktubers that are like, I read 27 books in July. Here are the 27 books I read. No, I'm just a regular person. YouTube is my part-time job. I have another job on Broadway here in New York. And, you know, running 2 channels is something that's gonna take a lot of time because editing videos takes a lot of time. So I'm just gonna post here when I feel like it. Hopefully that'll be at least twice a month, but we'll see. It'll be on Thursdays when it is posted. I just like to read the books that I like to read, and those are the ones that I'm gonna talk about. I'm the kind of person that, because I'm such a chronic mood reader, my reading vlogs that are themed are going to be spread way out. So like, I'm not gonna be the kind of person that's reading all of the books all at once, like all together, like 5 whatevers in a row, because that's just a recipe for slump town for me personally. So I spread all of my stuff out. So like, one of my books that I'm reading for a reading vlog is in September, and another one might be in November, another one might be in January, and then I'll release the video when all the books are done, okay? That's just how that's gonna go for me personally, because I don't want to overburden myself mentally, you know what I mean? Unless it's like a challenge or a whatever, but that will be clear when you're seeing the video. Mostly just saying that so that you're not confused and you're like, oh, it's like, looks like it's a totally different, like totally, your hair is like longer. Yeah, it's because I spread out my reading, and if it's a themed reading vlog, I'm not gonna do it all at the same time, or else I'm just gonna lose it. But anyways, like I was saying before, this will 100% be a place where I am de-influencing you from buying books, you know what I mean? Because you don't have to buy books to have a fulfilling reading hobby. There are a lot of classics that you can get online for free. There's other books you can get online for free if you want to use slightly less legal means. Not saying that I'm necessarily encouraging that, but it does exist if you're in a pinch. Obviously, support authors where and when you can. Libraries are also great. That is literally how I read 99.9% of my books. If I'm reading a physical book, it's probably one I already have on a shelf, or a gift from a family or friend, or from a free little library, because those are things too. There's just a lot of ways that you can read for free instead of buying all of your books or buying thrifted books that you're probably never going to read because they're just like random. I'm just not going to engage in that book economy anymore necessarily, because I used to buy quite a lot of money worth of books, and at the end of the day, I ended up decluttering most of them. So it was really just a huge waste of my money at the end of the day. I'm really trying to keep my reading free or as low cost as possible, and the kinds of books that I am going to be collecting from here on out are books that I want to read again and I've rated 5 stars and that mean a lot to me, because that feels more special than just having 1,000 books that I just feel kind of about, you know what I mean? Booktubers in general freak me the hell out. They actually genuinely stress me out about how much money they spend in terms of just consumerism in general, doing hauls every other freaking video. They're buying the Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and audiobook version of the same book just so they can read it. I can't even wrap my head around buying a book once, let alone 3 different times. I feel like very few of them utilize the library. I don't know if there's some scheme that's going on that I don't know about, that they're like buying the books just to hold them, to show you, and then returning them. I don't know. A lot of them seem to be putting them on their bookshelves. This is not going to be the corner of the internet where that exists, and hopefully it inspires you to take a deep breath and just enjoy reading for reading. for what it is, you know? I'm not gonna shame those people. I'm not going to judge them or pretend that I'm better than them, because a couple of years ago, I was them. I was still spending money on books. I've probably spent hundreds of dollars on books that I didn't really care that much about, which just makes me feel sad, you know? So spending money on a Kindle one time and renting all my books from the library has not changed who I am as a reader in terms of like validity. If anything, it has just made me more enthusiastic about reading, because I now can sleep well at night knowing that I didn't spend money on a book that I rated 2 stars. I just returned it back to the library and said, I'm so glad that that was free. Anyways, with all of that being said, I really don't want to yuck people's yum, because if something that really truly brings you joy is owning a library full of books and doing all of that, I highly just suggest doing it in a more intentional way, maybe renting from the library first or from a friend and then buying a book, maybe trying secondhand first or whatever. Everyone is at a different place in their life, in their book collecting journey, if that's something that they want to do or not. And right now, I am just not in the book collecting phase of my life. I probably will be once I have an official home that is mine and I can start collecting books. But, you know, bringing the lore over to this channel, my boyfriend and I are going to be moving to New Zealand in about 4-ish years, so the less books that I collect in the US, the better, because I don't want to have to ship over a library full of books, and I can just start collecting them when I move over there. So finally, I would like to re-establish, if not for you, but for myself, what my rating system is. I have my notes over here. I'm just gonna read this because I can't paraphrase what's going on. Okay, 5. Literally perfect and amazing. If there are flaws, the emotional impact it had on me has me willing to overlook them. This is a book I will be rereading and thinking about for a long time, as well as recommending it to anyone who asks me for a book to read. 5 stars are very rare for me because I like to keep my 5-star reads a very exclusive clubs of books that I'm like, oh, yeah. Yep, that's a 5-star. Recently, I've been rating things a little bit high, so I've had to knock down a few books on Storygraph in the past few months because I've noticed that I've just been giving things inflated ratings, which is why I'm reminding myself of my things. And guess what? It's okay to rate a book 3 stars that you genuinely still kind of enjoyed. Anyways, let's keep going. 4, really enjoyed it and would definitely recommend to anyone to read it. The issues I had with it were a little harder to ignore, but overall, still a really enjoyable read. Okay, fair enough. 3-star, a good book, but nothing particularly special or memorable. May not be my exact cup of tea, but definitely still has good qualities. Depending on the person, I'd still recommend it based on their personal taste, as it might just not have been mine. Not a book I'm mad about reading, but probably one I won't think about again, which is fair. Unless I was like kind of iffy about it and it was like a weird one. Perfect example of this, a book I rated 3 stars, Our Wives Under the Sea. That book is so strange, but I know people that rave about it. For me, it was a little bit too no plot, just vibes, and that's not the kind of book that I personally like to read, but there are lots of people that I know that are obsessed with that book. Okay. Getting down into the lower ones. A 2, actively did not have a good time reading this book, or the ending just absolutely pissed me off or ruined the whole experience for me. The issues were glaring and actively took away from my enjoyment. Some redeeming qualities or enjoyment occurred, but very little. And then a 1, which is very rare because I would usually have just DNF'd at that point. The only time I will rate a book a 1 star is if I'm reading it for a video and just am seeing it through. This is for books that I force myself to push through and genuinely regret not DNFing before finishing them. Bad time, bad vibes, bad writing. If I made it this far and didn't DNF, this book or author is probably going to be on my shit list forever. So that's definitely happened before. And of course, the sun is leaving us right at the end of the video. Anyways, that's all for the video today. I hope that this information clears things up. It's a nice little introduction to the channel if you just wanted to get to know the vibes over here. I really can't wait to chat with you guys about books in a way that is just purely about reading and fun and all of that stuff. I have so many fun video ideas in my head ready to share with you all. I would love to know in the comments a little bit about you and your like reading habits, like some of your 5-star reads, the kinds of genres that you generally gravitate towards, or the book that you're currently reading, or whatever you want to share about books. I am so excited to talk about books. I just love reading so much, and I have for my entire life, and I'm so excited and so grateful that I get to share all of these things on this platform with all of you. So bringing it over to this channel as well. I will see you in the next one, and until then, I'm sending you all my love because we're all just trying our best out here, all right? Happy reading!